Hi, so this is Coach Stone. I'm going over some basic running technique. I'm going to start with just the main things you'll always hear me say at practice, which is have your toes up. I don't really care about the rest of the foot because the toe is the driver of the foot. So I want you to put your toes up when you run. When you're focusing on your technique, focus on having your toes up because that helps you prepare your foot to strike the ground. And then you also will be hearing me talk a lot about posture, having your core engaged, having your core stable, and then using your glutes and using your hips while you run, hinging at the hips. So here, this is just me preparing to do some hops, and I'm going to show you what I'm looking for in terms of the angles of the body and why they're important. So this is my upper body line. My core is engaged here. My spine is strong, not arched in the back. The goal is to have it in a straight line. We do a lot of core work in our warm-up, and then we have core circuits that are all designed to help your spine stabilize itself against rotation and different types of pelvic tilt, which I can put up a different video talking about. Here we have my lower body line, which is this is my femur, my thigh. This is my lower leg. And this kind of figure is going to be seen also when I run. So you'll see me now jump, and I'm jumping up and down. I have this hinge in my body in the air. Same line, this one, then that one, in the air. And then as I come to the ground, you see my foot is prepared and I'm able to bounce right off it. I can speed this up to half speed and I'm able to use my glutes to push me off the ground instead of having to do all the work with my calf and my quads and other less strong parts of my body, because your glutes are the strongest part of your leg and are designed to propel you for locomotion purposes, for running. You look at any animal, you look at horses, you look at any animal that runs fast, and most of it is powered by their glutes. And then the other thing that is of a ton of importance, especially with like cats and stuff, is the spine, right? So the spine and the glutes are what give us our power, and having our spine the way we have it is what allows our glutes to fire the most powerfully and the cleanest. And then having our feet prepared for the ground is what allows us to not lose power when we hit the ground. So now that said, you'll see me running. I'm going to do a couple different examples. This is a positive example. This is a model towards which we're going to hopefully work at home, because I got to do this. This is what I would usually do in practice. Way less talking, obviously. But because we're stuck at home with COVID, it's going to be more of me talking and drawing on the video. So this is going to be the ideal. I will show you kind of the main things to focus on here in this video. And then I'll show you some common errors I see in other people running. It'll just be models of me doing things that I've seen and that have been problems. So this is just the full speed version. I can run that back again, full speed. Right? I'm running slow, but this is kind of supposed to be for our distance runs, and most of our runs that we were doing in our training are not that fast right now. So focusing on your technique is of huge importance in that practice that we're doing right now, in our training right now. So I'll run this back into quarter speed, and what I want you to notice is kind of a couple things. One, as I'm about to hit the ground, I'm striking with my midfoot. If you have your toes up and you have your posture strong and your hip engaged, you should be landing on your midfoot. If you run really, really slow and you're going pretty easy, you might land on your heel. But I'm barefoot here, so if I actually land on my heel, it'll hurt eventually. And you can see as I land and I go through this, right, I'm able to get some lift and kind of easily and smoothly propel myself forward. When you see me hit the ground, and we can use this one as an example, I want you to notice this, right? I'll draw a better line here. I'm at an angle at the hips, right? I am not straight up and down. I'm not running like super duper tall. I'm running in a way that engages my hips and allows them to push me, right? And then you will see that I am, when I'm on the ground, in that same position that I was in when I was jumping, which is this, this, and this, right? With my stance leg. And that is power. That's how I get power, because basically what I do there is my calf is loaded, my Achilles tendon, it is going to spring me forward. As I push with my glutes, it will react and push me down the track. So you see that, boom, boom, boom. That's the ideal. Now, this is a different version, and this is me with a loose, lazy core. And I have a baggy shirt on here, but basically what's going on is that my back is kind of arched here, right? Not super bad, but it's kind of arched. And so what happens with that is that, like excessively arched, is that I don't have the ability to push all the way through my hips. And what you will see here as I run is this is not as fast as the first one. So this is the first one. It is the same level of effort. That's nice and smooth. I get some bounce off the track. And this is a much more shuffly. And what you're going to notice is that I have to do a lot more work when I land where my foot is, right? When I land on the ground, I don't have, it looks very similar, but I'm not able to get nearly as much push through because I'm losing energy with my weak spine. So having an engaged core is super important. There's not much else you can see in this video that is that valuable, but here you can really see my arched spine. And then what happens then is that a lot of times you have people, once you run way faster, instead of your knees being in a position, or your legs being in a position to apply and react to the ground, apply force to and react off of the ground, they wind up kind of, you'll see a lot of people whose legs wind up like behind them, kicking up really high because their hips are not connected to their chest through their core. So then the second last thing I want to talk about is this. This is somebody who runs. I've seen a lot of ultra marathoners or very long distance runners. These folks do not use their butts, right? This you can see when I hit the ground here, and I'll go back to really slow-mo. I want you to look at the position of my body when I hit the ground. My chest is super vertical, and it is not over my foot. It's behind it. So my chest is not over my foot, then what happens is that my knee has to do a lot of work to like stabilize the fact that it's being pulled in two different directions. And you can see the stress that I put on my knee, and you'll see a couple things. One, this is way worse for my knee. I'm putting way more stress on my knee. If you look at this angle of what the knee has to do versus when we go back to the original one, look at this one is not nearly as strained. It's not bent nearly as far forward when I land. And then the other thing is like I just don't get any power from my glutes. So I'm not prepared for the ground, and I'm doing a lot more work on the front, and then you'll see I have to do a lot of pushing off the ground, active pushing off the ground with my calf to get myself to move. And that's how some people wind up with like calf problems and calf strains and just like calves that want to cramp up on them. They kind of shuffle with very little butt movement. You're going to wear your calf sleeves all the time if you don't use your glutes because you're not getting your power from an efficient place. So if we go back and we look at this and we look at what my calf does here, It's just natural. It's reacting. By the time that it's like extended, it's way behind me and I'm already off the ground. I'm like, so it can shut off and come back around and get ready to hit the ground. Whereas this is a lot more like, oh, I gotta push, oh, I gotta push, oh, I gotta push. And that's not sustainable over the long term. You get a lot of knee injuries, and we really want to avoid this. So learning how to hip hinge and turn on our glutes will be super important. I'll put another video up that shows some strategies for practicing that. So now what we're going to look at is a back view of kind of a more ideal running. And what you're going to notice here is that my arms are moving, not only back and forward. So if my arms were moving back and forward, they would only stay kind of in this line, straight back and forward, straight back and forward. But that's not how the body works. And what you're going to see, and I'll kind of let this go, is that when I have an arm that's going backwards, right, it's going to go this way. It's going to come in and then flick out, and the one that's out right now is going to come back up in and then back out at the top. You should be able to see that, right? It's coming out and back, and that's natural because if you look at my hips, they're also rotating, right? So you see now when I'm in the air, and we can see this, that my hips are not, they're obviously that's a little extreme, they're kind of tilted, and then the next step they're going to tilt this way, right? My shoulders are going to do work and rotate and twist, and I'm going to have a lot of torque going on in my hips and my shoulders. And as long as my spine and my core is stable, my core is stabilizing my spine and engaged, that energy will transfer, right? And you'll see that the little flap is just natural. It happens. It's normal. Flip. Now I have a tight right shoulder, so it might be a little asymmetrical, and I have right hip injuries. But what you can see is that those arms with the flap are pretty efficient. I'm not twisting my upper body. And a lot of times you see people twisting their upper body because they're trying to keep their arms like straight forward and back, and your shoulders aren't designed to do that. Go walk with super straight, rigid arms, and you'll realize that your shoulders want to rotate, right? So when I come back here, you'll see, and I'll just go in half speed, you'll see this little flap. I'm not crossing my body. It's just coming in kind of up towards the same side chin, but there's a flap. It's going out. It's coming back through. It's going out. It's coming back through. It's natural, right? Don't fight what's natural when you're running. The main things we're looking on is using our glutes, keeping our core engaged, and keeping our toes up so we can prepare to hit the ground and get a little bit of spring off of it, save energy over the long term. All right, so I hope that helps. If you have any questions, send me an email. You can also comment on the video if you want with questions, but email is easier. So I'm here if you guys need me, and I hope this helps. All right.